Thanks for tuning in. I'm News Now from Fox host Rain Augustine, and it looks like the countdown to prepare for Hurricane Delta is underway. Right now, I'm joined with the mayor of Lake Charles, Nick Hunter. Mayor, thank you for speaking with me.
Thank you.
Now, Hurricane Delta is dominating the Gulf right now, but the city is still recovering from the aftermath of Hurricane Laura. So what exactly can Lake Charles expect as the storm approaches the coast?
Well, the latest track is really not favorable for Lake Charles. So it is an assurity at this moment that we're going to see some serious effects from Hurricane Delta. We are most surely going to feel some hurricane force winds, and it's going to be impactful for Lake Charles. And where we are today, still reeling from the monster that Hurricane Laura was, to face the idea that we would get hit again from another hurricane is a really scary proposition for Lake Charles.
As the mayor, what are you most concerned about?
Well, we have a job to do right now, and the job and the task at hand is to get people to safety. And that is our number one priority right now, is human lives and making sure that if people are willing, that they can get out of Lake Charles. And we are strongly recommending that, strongly urging that, and we are providing transportation for those who don't have their own transportation or the financial means to get out of town.
Yes, it's interesting you touched on those vulnerable populations, because a lot of times whenever these evacuation orders are set in place, we always think about the elderly, low-income residents, and those who maybe can't afford to leave.
Absolutely, and we realize that population is out there. And let me tell you, even if we weren't in the middle of COVID-19, and even if we had the best economy in the world rolling right now, you always have to remember those segments of the population that don't have the ability to simply pull out a credit card or put money in a gas tank and go rent a hotel room. You cannot forget about anyone in a situation like this. And so before we ordered a mandatory evacuation, we absolutely had to have a plan in place for those individuals. And I'm very happy that that plan has been enacted. And as you and I speak right now, it is running in full motion.
That's good to hear. Now, we were speaking a little bit earlier, and I mentioned that I'm a Louisiana native. So I understand that a lot of times Louisiana residents are so used to hurricanes, and some feel very confident what we call riding the storm out, right? So how are city and emergency officials encouraging people to leave the area?
Hopefully people have not seen us mince words over the last few hours. And we called a mandatory evacuation yesterday at 5 p.m. That's a big deal to do that. And we don't take that lightly. There's a lot of thought that goes into calling for a mandatory evacuation. But people need to think about themselves and their family and their safety, and also realize that we are absolutely going to get to a point where, though law enforcement, though public safety would want to come and rescue you, would want to come and retrieve you if you're in danger, they literally can't do it because of the hurricane force winds and perhaps flooding. So people do need to take this seriously, and we would take it seriously if all we were talking about was Hurricane Delta. But with what we just went through with Hurricane Laura, this community is still a little battered, quite a bit battered from that experience. And our structures are battered. So people should not think that just because if they stayed for Laura and their structure made it through, that there wouldn't be different effects from Hurricane Delta. Every storm has its own DNA. And a house that didn't flood from Laura could absolutely flood from Delta.
And what tips can you give those individuals who are choosing to stay behind?
Well, I would, again, encourage them until the 11th hour to change their minds, that you would rather look back in a few days after evacuating and perhaps realize maybe I didn't need to, versus the proposition of being in the middle of a storm and realizing that your life is in danger and wishing, oh my God, I should have evacuated. So I'm not trying to be dramatic, but it is very possible that in the middle of the night, someone could see water coming into their home from Hurricane Delta. And at that point, it would be probably impossible for public safety to respond immediately. But after having said all that, if you are staying, again, please realize that there's going to be a window where, though they may want to, public safety cannot respond, and they should hunker down and expect to be self-sufficient for a period of time.
Very stern words for those who are choosing not to adhere to evacuation orders. Now, Mayor, we discussed that Lake Charles has been through a lot in the past few weeks. What words of encouragement can you give the Lake Charles community as a whole?
Well, and that word resilient is thrown around a lot. I get it. But let me tell you, if there was ever a community or a city that could make it through not only hurricane season 2020, but just this entire year 2020, which has been filled with just some craziness, it is Lake Charles. And it has to do with the people. I mean, the people here have it in their DNA to be survivors. And we are going to get through this, and we are going to bounce back. It is very tough while we're going through it. There is no doubt about that. It's tough. It's emotional. It's frustrating, but the sun's going to come up eventually, and Lake Charles will get through this moment.
Absolutely. Mayor Hunter, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. God bless.